Hello and welcome to Power Reflections, a proud member of the Duff Network, where we reflect on Wildbow's most Mammarian work as it releases. I'm Ruben Morehouse,
And I'm Elliot Diebold.
and we're coming at you live in the Discord to talk about these two wonderful chapters about, in their own way, how to raise children.
yeah, I'll probably blab a lot more about that later.
Yeah, a
Too.
very special Father's Day episode.
I know, it's perfect timing.
Yeah.
I remember actually because last year we tweeted on Father's Day. It was like Happy Father's Day to Connor, Paul, and Brett
Mm,
because a year ago Connor was still very much like getting a lot of hate in the fandom because he took a bit to catch up to
yeah, took a
accepting
while to get there. Yeah.
Avery's first coming out. Um, and it's like I was like, man, we can't do that joke tweet anymore because now there's actually a good dad on the team.
Mm,
Um, but then, yeah, he got a special Father's Day chapter, so that works.
yeah, and we got a new troubled parent figure in Freeman.
Yeah, well, I think it's really funny too because it's like it's been very consistent in this story that like multiple of 5 arcs are like themed interludes. Like Arc 5 was all Bristow's Aware, Arc 10 was all Ken and Others.
Mm,
I think Arc 15 skipped it, but there was one right around there that did it. And this was like Arc 20, I was so set for it to be Negatiers and Negatier
mm.
teachers. And so far that's holding. So that's nice.
Because Connor is a negateer, or
Yeah, that's coming in the next one, 20.c.2. We're gonna
well,
find
I
out that
guess
he's
we
a
should
mole.
say. I didn't expect this to become relevant, but I did see a prediction in our Pale Predictor sheet predicting that Sheridan would get forsworn and then unforsworn by Charles and become one of the negateers. So I guess that is consistent with your prediction.
Yep, yeah, you're right. I predict that will happen too now.
Anyway, obviously we've got 20C with Connor, we'll get to in a second, but first we have 20B with Beeman. Freeman, he grows increasingly frustrated with his student, Adrian, who just isn't confident enough in his instincts. And I wrote this to sum up the start of this chapter, but really it's the summary of the entire
That's the
chapter.
that's the whole thing. Yeah.
He's
Um
just frustrated, increasingly frustrated with Adrian and his lack of confidence.
Yeah, these two are like oil and water. I do love though, like the other verse is just so easily able to make that characterization really visual too. Like one of the first things we learn in this chapter is that they're astrally projecting, and Freeman walks us through what they look like when they're astrally projecting. He's got like his shitty hacker man Matrix wannabe outfit going, and he's talking about how it's because he's like practiced and he knows this stuff about himself, like blah blah. And then Adrian's just like a little shitty tadpole of blobby light,
Yeah.
and like I just love that for really reinforcing. Like Freeman is sort of thinking all this stuff, and then the story cuts to describing them visually, and you're like, oh okay, like so this is both where they're at, and like spiritually it's backed up. Like it's so
Yeah.
nice that the story is able to easily sell something like this through something like astral projection.
Yeah. So something interesting to, I guess, think about throughout this chapter is what's Freeman like as a teacher?
He's
He's
great.
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the good way to say it is he could be worse. He definitely could be worse. He at least seems to care somewhat about the well-being of his student, which is good. But maybe that's just out of fear that if he fails, Charles will kill him, which is bad. Um, yeah, he seems to be trying to find a way to break through to Adrian, which is good, but also kind of failing to recognize who he is and pushing him in kind of clearly the wrong ways. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. I,
I worry we're going to see a trend of like Ian was the best negative teacher. Then Freeman is the second best, and like we're gonna see maybe Helen will be next, Seth, and then we'll kind of get down to
Leonard.
Joseph Leonard. That's the one. Sorry, I keep getting the
Yeah.
teachers and the children mixed up, but
Same.
yeah, it's gonna get worse and worse, I'm sure.
Um, yeah, because I kind of had similar vibes to you where it felt like his heart was in the right place. He just fucking sucks at his job. Um,
Yeah,
Like, there's all these moments where, without the wider context, you'd almost think he's a good caregiver. Like, I'm thinking of the moment when the man bat does its second wave, and he literally puts himself between that and Adrian to protect him.
Yeah,
Or when he, like, runs the bath for Adrian and goes to buy him new jeans and is, like, taking care of him while he's
yeah, yeah.
completely unable to take care of himself. And it's like, if you didn't know that it was Freeman's fucking fault that he was like this, you'd think he's just a really good caregiver. Um, and I think that kind of sums up his whole vibe. Is it's like he wants to do well by Adrian, and he's trying. He just doesn't know how at all. Like, he's just completely baffled by the idea of not throwing people in the deep end because that's what worked for him.
Mm, yeah. Um, yeah, it's interesting. Like he's clearly very conflicted about, oh, I really want to try and find a way to break through to Adrian, but I just can't do it. And
Mm.
yeah, just yeah, you're right. His heart seems to mostly be in the right place. He just kind of can't get it right.
Yeah, I think you were right. Like, you could argue that him wanting to care for Adrian could sort of be coming from that place of he just wants to prove his value or whatever. Like, the
Yeah,
line probably starts to get a bit murky there, but
yeah,
this is
yeah.
where I start to get a bit like, well, that's step one, right? Like, when you got a piece of shit, if they're doing the right thing for the wrong reasons, it's like, well, that's step one, right? And then you keep incentivizing people to do the right thing, and before you know it, that's just what they do.
Mm,
But yeah, I think the other thing to talk about with Freeman is obviously that, like, he is the Negateer teacher who isn't a Forsworn, but
yeah.
as Helen points out later, like, he fucking fits right in. He's very much on Charles's page of just like,
Mm,
if you put someone under enough pressure, a diamond comes out the other end. Um, and like, what he seems to hate is the idea that what would he do if he's not climbing the ladder? I guess, which is, yeah, like, Charles's whole fucking organization is built on that principle.
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, he definitely fits in, doesn't he? But yeah,
Like,
it's
his interactions with Adrian actually remind me a lot of Anthem, with his
mm,
daughters. Uh,
yeah.
just that way, he has this worldview and he knows what worked for him, and he's just got his head too far up his own ass to, like, see that that's not necessarily what would suit the person he's trying to raise.
Yeah, I mean, I think he sees that he's pretty happy with where he's gotten to as a result, and he does seem to be pretty competent in what he does. But like,
Yeah,
what we learn about him is he went through this horrific trauma and then kind of had. I don't think we know exactly how much time, a few years of kind of picking up the practice and getting himself into a lot of trouble before a council basically had to be like, you're going to get yourself
get
killed
out.
or we're going to kill you unless you stop fucking around like this. And so, like, I think Freeman doesn't quite connect the dots on that, that it wasn't just, I had this horrible experience and then I became super awesome immediately after, right? It was clearly like a multi-year process. So I think that's the flaw in his, like, in his logic of how he's training Adrian here, is it doesn't quite, it didn't quite work for him the way he thinks it did, I think.
Well, yeah, but I mean, and the other thing, like, he's trying. The thing that's throwing him off with Adrian is Adrian won't do step one. Like, he's trying to create that
Mm,
thing where
mm,
Adrian switches into, what sounds like Freeman was actually pretty fucking badass and hardcore and cool in his backstory. The way he, like, reverse engineered that diagram to get out of there, and then did, like, a month long trek back to his own body and kicked an echo out of it. Like, that is badass and cool as hell. Um,
yeah.
he's just like, he's trying to manufacture something like that for Adrian, which is, like, fucking wild that you think other people should go through anything like that. Like, this is the same thing with Charles. Like, this is why he fits in, because it's like, you look at, like, what Charles did, and Charles's takeaway is sort of been like, everyone should have to struggle so that there's no, like, dynasties or whatever. And it's like, it's wild that this is your takeaway from what you've been through. Um,
Mm,
yeah, I don't know, but I just, like, I really, Freeman actually really feels to me like somebody who went from Muss's side to Charles's, in that way that he's, like, quite practitioner establishment, but he's so driven by this idea of, like, everyone needs to provide their value and be valuable. You can see how he slipped over to Charles and Co.
yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, for sure.
But and but that's the other thing about him is, like, because he gets the Avery banner at the start here. And it's because Freeman is very obsessed with, like, connections and having contacts and stuff, but it's for just, like, such a bastardized version of how Avery forms connection. Like, I remember talking about this a bit with Florin, originally too, like, Freeman's worse though, but like Freeman's whole thing is like he's out there and he's making connections and making sure people can help him, but from this very individualistic perspective of like making himself valuable so that they don't want to leave him behind because he's too important. I guess like it's such it's such an abuse of Avery's whole connections thing. Like it's almost offensive that he gets to use her banner because he's doing it for just such a fundamentally more selfish purpose. I love it.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's an interesting protag or point of view character, I guess.
Yeah.
I really like his casual display of his super Siri where he says, okay, phone, and then his phone,
Yeah.
about 20 kilometers away, lights up ready to receive his voice commands, which is like ultra Siri, and I think was very funny.
It is, but I also love how it's just phone. Like,
Yeah, he's weirdly not creative in that way, isn't he?
yeah, like because he does it a couple times. He's just like, "Okay, phone," and it's just like, yeah. I think it ties into a lot of what he talks about later with like because I don't think he likes working with people. Like, it makes sense. You know, he
Mm,
is going to go on a whole speech later about how people are complicated and stuff, and I think this ties into it because he doesn't want to personify his phone in case that personifies it. Like he just wants it to be a simple object.
yeah, yeah, definitely. He then makes this very interesting point about how he likes to deal with objects as opposed to like things that are sentient, even very weak goblins,
Yeah.
because sentient things can learn and surprise you. And I think this is a really powerful mindset to have against the Kenneteers, who's basically the whole MO is surprising people who think that they're weaker than they are, right?
Well, yeah, the whole thing with Canada is they're a bunch of sentient people who aren't really sticking to their categories, so they'll like surprise you. Like, yeah, uh, Canada's kind of his worst nightmare.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but you know, he's prepared for that, I guess, more than a lot of other people like Anthem and Musa have been.
That's true. Although his thing is to just not try not to deal with that generally. So it'd be interesting to see what it does when he's up against them directly.
Mm,
But yeah, like I think this speaks to this really interesting ethos he has, like that comes up with like his phone just being called phone, which is this like he likes to try. I get the vibe. He likes to try and bend the world into just being like systems that can be cracked and understood. Like it's a very. I'm definitely mapping a few people I know from university who are like the much more hacker types like that
mm,
sort of they don't like people because people are messy and unpredictable and they don't like psychology because you can't just like you can't master psychology, right? Whereas like systems like computers like karma and all that, like you can understand that system and kind of play its game or work within it, beat it, whatever you want to do with it. Like um I'm thinking of how he sends this bomb from the truck back to whoever made it, and Adrian's like, "Oh, is that like okay to do? Like that could have been one of your allies or whatever." And well, like Freeman just sort of refuses to talk, like address that, and he's just like, "No, no, you don't understand. It was like just like I think
mm,
he's attracted to things like karma because it's a system that allows him to just like not have to worry about thinking past that system."
mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. I think it's easy for him to. It's clear that he has, let's say, struggled with morality in his time.
Yeah,
Um, so I think having a system that is like, you know, yeah, oh, I can ascribe to this universe based system is very easy, right?
yeah, because I've known sort of people like this. I've
Mm,
definitely I'll lean in this direction a little bit myself. And like Verona has talked about it, like this idea of like if you don't feel like you have that innate natural like thing for right and wrong, it's so much more simple to just get a system that you can follow. And like Freeman feels like he's dipping a little bit into that, and like you see it a lot with
yeah.
like crypto bros are all like this. So I'm thinking of the ones who like they want some sort of crypto thing to replace like all laws or
Mm,
passports or whatever the fuck. Like they want to replace all these systems, and it's for a lot of them, it's coming from a place of like crypto is something and it has the rules and you can understand it. And if everyone would just
Yeah.
understand it and use it, then everything could be understood and the world would be simpler. And that it blinds them to the limitations and flaws of those systems.
The very kind of practical problems of it, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, exactly.
Mm. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, talking about morality, I've been kind of keeping a track on my judgments of the Negative's morality. Adrian is an interesting one.
Yeah.
He 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 doesn't seem to care that they like. Freeman says, "Oh, this might hurt somebody or blow up the phone, or maybe if we're lucky, it'll kill them." And Adrian's response is like, "Oh, cool," but he didn't really think about it. He seems to flag that Adrian that flags that this might be someone that Freeman like was working with on Muss's team a little bit ago. So maybe maybe he doesn't seem to react to the fact they might be kind of almost killing somebody, but he also doesn't react strongly to basically anything. So hard to really get a read.
Yeah, especially like all of our vision of Adrian in this story, or 90% of what we've seen of Adrian in this story has been through the lens of Freeman, which isn't exactly an
Yes.
unbiased
Yeah.
POV.
Yeah.
Um, I wrote a bunch about it later in the notes, and I'm not mentally agile enough at the moment to jump back and forward like that. But like generally, I think Adrian's a bit of a follower or like somebody who will do what's ordered, which has me worried about like any roles he's going to play in fights. But
Mm.
I'll go into more detail when we get to the part where I wrote it up when my brain was going.
Perfect. So yeah, they defuse this bomb and then head back to their bodies. And Adrian fucks it up like the piece of shit he is, and then starts to panic.
Useless coward.
Horrible! What a
Yeah.
loser! Am I
um,
right? Jeez.
yeah, just so useless. This kid.
Mm-hmm.
Something I really like about this whole scene with the truck and the bomb is it felt very like cartel movie sort of vibes. I don't know what genre word to use or whatever. Like I just finished Better Call Saul last week, and so I guess I've got like Breaking Bad universe sort of in my brain, and I can totally see something like this happening in Breaking Bad. Obviously, sans magic,
Mm.
but
Unless.
yeah, well, stay tuned to my Tumblr post on that. But yeah, like there's something I think because I remember we called out a lot when the war mages were invading Kennet. They were like bringing jeeps, and we were talking back then about how it felt like the story had moved. Like when we were dealing with Alexander and Bristow, it was all very magical, blah blah blah, and then we dealt with these practitioners who were a bit more enmeshed in the real world, and suddenly there were jeeps, and it felt more like a war movie at times. And now we're dealing with like Charles, and he's built this fucking like literal underworld of like crime and darkness and stuff. So it kind of makes sense that now some of these interactions with that world feel like the sort of thing you'd see in a movie that's about a crime underworld sort of thing,
Mm.
like these jeeps loaded with weapons and stuff and being intercepted on the highway and all that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. There's it's turning into this very I don't know, like I guess gang warfare between. I wouldn't put the Kenneteers into this, but definitely some of the stuff that we see this chapter from Freeman and the Negatives, and what you're talking about with these like Jeep vibes, it all fits together, doesn't it?
Yeah, like Kennet's the weird exception almost because of all the work the Kenneteers have been doing to like unify it. But for the rest of Ontario or the rest of Charles's domain, yeah, there's this real vibe of like Freeman actually calls out that it looks like a scene from Carpocalypse Max, which
What could that be
heaven
a play
knows,
on? I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, heaven knows what that's referencing. Um, but like that's what the underground of this world's starting to look like. But yeah, Charles is very much fueling this upheaval in the criminal underworld, which is sort of where magic sits in a lot of urban fantasy sort of stuff. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Um, Yeah, I mean, so obviously, I think we kind of touched on this. Like, what happens here, we learn later, is basically a mini version of Freeman's own origin story. Um, And I guess he thought that since it worked so well for him, it might help toughen Adrian up a bit. And clearly, he is wrong about that. So that's funny.
It's just I love the delivery. Like even the second time, especially, it's just like you see it, and Freeman's like, "Yeah, this might be a good teachable moment." You're just like, "No, like it's," and it goes so poorly to the point where
It
he
goes
has
so
to call
wrong so fast. Yeah.
help. Like, yeah, they're so out of their depth. It's yeah, he's not a great teacher, uh, Freeman. I think you could probably pair him with a student who he would be all right with, but that student is just definitely not Adrian.
I reckon swap Joseph and Adrian. I reckon Adrian would do really well under Leonard.
Well,
I think it would
it'd
be
be over
great.
quickly at least.
So yeah, Adrian nearly dies, but they eventually survive with some help from the phone god. And Freeman, as Adrian is nearly dying, Freeman tells him his origin story.
Yeah, because
Um,
that's what you want when your teacher's made you bedridden and you're sitting in a bath of your own piss and shit. What you really want to hear is
mhm.
about how badass he is.
Yep. And it's a very interesting origin story. We get kind of most of it here, and then we get a bit more in the next conversation later with the teachers group, I guess. Um, anyway, but yeah, Freeman was a kind of a shitty young adult who went through a very horrible experience and kind of learned about magic from that. And he seems to have learned to not be as much of a piece of shit from there. So maybe it was good for him in some ways.
See, that's interesting. I want to hear why you think he's less of a piece of shit. Because I got the impression he's still kind of, in a lot of ways, very similar. Like,
Yeah, I just
in what
I
ways do you think he's improved
like
apart
some of
from
the stuff
competence?
that he did when he was much younger. I think he clearly kind of feels bad about and recognizes that it was pretty problematic, right? At least that's the vibe I got from him. Like,
I didn't necessarily get that vibe. I'm
you
gonna
don't
be
think?
honest. No, like I think he made mistakes, but like I very much view Freeman as somebody who has that. Like he regrets these things because they put him in a bad situation, so he got like hurt or whatever. But like,
Mm.
I don't. I just don't view him as somebody who really thinks about morality. I guess, like
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he clearly kind of knows, like, I don't know. I'm trying to, I'm trying to figure out if I can think of any like quotes or anything that made me think of this, and I can't point to them at hand. But when he's talking about like the fact that the thing that got him into the situation was that he was effectively trying to record explicit footage of a girl that he knew, right? Through like installing a malicious
yeah,
program onto a laptop or whatever. Like I definitely got the vibe that he kind of knew that was like he saw that as, oh, this is something shitty that I did when I was younger, and I wouldn't do that now.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's fair. But like again, I guess again, I'm coming at it from like he's the sort of guy, yeah, for whatever reason, just doesn't have that natural instinct. Like as a 14-year-old or whatever kid, the idea occurred to him of getting this footage of the girl and trading it, and clearly,
Mm,
whatever part of his brain is that part that some of us have that is like, hey, that's awful, don't do that. Like he doesn't seem to naturally have that, and he's
mm,
kind of, I think, learnt since then through just like having a better understanding that it's like that would get him in trouble more than it was necessarily wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm being
yeah,
unfair to
yeah.
him.
No, I definitely don't see him as a great character still.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I've never studied any psychology or anything, so I don't know if there's like words for this or whatever. But I definitely know these people who it's like it reminds me, and this came up in the live read. You get those people who are religious who are like, but wait, if you don't believe that God will send you to hell, why don't you just go around murdering and pillaging all the time? And you sort of hear that, and you're like, well, because that's awful, and I don't want to do that. I don't need the threat of hell to stop. But like some people clearly need some sort of external pressure, I guess, to help push them over
Mm,
that edge. And Freeman
mm.
strikes me as similar, just like obviously without the religion. Although Marcy's involved now, so maybe a bit of religion.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would definitely track with what we're talking about with the kind of external, his ascribing to karma as the kind of universal morality system.
Yeah, yeah. I think the other thing to really talk about from his origin story is how much like Freeman had always sat in my head as kind of the anti Zed, just because he was the bad technomancer in the Musser invasion arc. Um,
Mm.
but this origin story really kind of I think solidifies this idea that he is a bit like the anti Zed. Like, because Zed was having a rough time, kind of similarly to Freeman, got in trouble because he was doing dumb shit on the internet. But what happened is Zed got saved by the system. Eventually, Ray found him. Ray took him in, and now obviously Zed kicks ass and he's good. But like, I can see the universe where like I don't think Freeman was necessarily all that different in many ways in that original situation. It's just Freeman didn't get saved. Freeman had to save himself,
Mm,
and so like Freeman and Zed kind of stand across from each other as really interesting counterpoints for like there's so many similarities for how they got introduced to the world of magic. The difference being that Zed got that safety and learned to appreciate like his network, whereas Freeman is distrustful of people generally and like just wants to be valued so that he doesn't get dropped.
mm, yeah, yeah.
Um, which I guess, like, speaking of all of Freeman's like borderline libertarian sort of thinking,
Mm,
I thought it was interesting that he was hanging out with Team Forsworn because my initial read on someone like Freeman would have been that he'd be that sort of person who'd be like, "Well, you got Forsworn, that's your own fault because you broke the rules." Like, somebody who would be at first glance willing to ignore or just assume that the person who got Forsworn it was their own fault. Um,
mm,
and I guess that something similar came up when so he goes through his backstory, and there's this guy who gets turned into a horror when Freeman like gets back at him, and part of me's like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Like this is your own dumb fault. But then Freeman goes back to him and is like, "Hey, if you give me all your stuff, like I'll take mercy on you and kill you." And the guy gives him all the stuff, and then Freeman's like, "Well, psych, like fuck you." And buries him, and he's presumably still down there. And
yep.
that's not like that's not any better than leaving a forsworn person. Leaving some dude stuck in a hole as a horror who's apparently still cognitive enough to like ask for mercy. Like that's worse than forswearing someone, or at least as bad. I would have thought.
Yes, definitely worse, I think.
So this is the one part of Freeman being on Charles's side that doesn't reconcile to me. Is it's a bit like, but he doesn't strike me as the sort of person who would be that forgiving to the Forsworn. It's like I wonder if that's going to come up for them at all.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think he probably just sorts that in his head into, oh, that's justified in this case, like he deserved
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's just interesting. Like
Mm,
part of me is like maybe he's like because Charles is on top and makes the rules. I can kind of see why Freeman is okay with Forsworn people now. I just wonder if that is something that could be challenged under different circumstances.
mm, yeah, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't think, again, Charles's morality has never been that unquestionable in my eyes.
Yeah, Charles definitely. I've always believed Charles has a code, but Charles has also admitted that he will break that code if he needs to stay on
Yeah,
mission.
yeah. Um, Anyway, so yeah, Freeman later is hanging out in the teacher's lounge with his best friends on the other faculty, Helen and Yiyun, and they get a call from Seth about a practical training exercise that they can do.
I love this trio of Helen, Yiyun, and Freeman, particularly because Freeman himself is so fucking baffled about what kind of unites them beyond their students. Like he just doesn't get it at all.
Yeah. Um, yeah. This is a very fun trio. Helen is,
Helen's
uh,
fun.
yeah, again, another great example in the story of one of those characters that's very fun to read about, but I would be so exhausted if I actually knew them in real
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. 100%.
Um, it, do you think that she's like connected back with her family now that she's not Forsworn anymore?
I mean, I don't think so because it doesn't come up, and then also just like they pressured her into getting forsworn, and so like unless they were doing a lot to protect her after the fact, fuck them.
Mm,
And I don't get the vibe they were doing a lot to protect her afterwards, just because they're an established practitioner family.
mm.
So my intuition is no. Uh,
Yeah, but then she kind of seems to be living her life in the exact same way she was. I mean, like almost explicitly, Freeman says that, and he's not maybe the most reliable narrator, but he says like, "Oh, she's as soon as she's been unforesworn, she's gone back to like partying and all this stuff that maybe she was very high." uh, high octane life that she was living, I guess. Or maybe it was more like stressful and studying, and now she's kind of letting loose now that she's unforced woman. I
Yeah.
don't know.
My read on her was, yeah, she's somebody who went through hell for a couple of years, and now she's, like, clicked over to full hedonist, like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna enjoy every second I've got left."
Mm.
Um, which,
Yeah, I see that.
like, yeah, I say go for it, like, my idea of that is certainly not partying every night, but, like, whatever floats your boat.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, so I do want to point out this is probably the one part where Yiyun and Helen are quite good at actually getting Freeman to open up and talk about his problems, which is really fun. And honestly, I would love to just see more of these three interact because they're such a fucking odd trio. Um, but Freeman starts to make his case for why he's pushing Adrian the way he is. And I think he has like a pretty solid point, which is that like in about a week they're going to be in a war. Adrian's going to be expected to fight as a part of that. Like if he
Yeah.
needs to find somewhere for Adrian to go. And it takes like Yi Yun's prodding for him to start to consider that maybe that place isn't really on the front lines or whatever. But like, even if you're not on the front lines in a war like this, you're still going to need some ability to work under pressure. So I can
Mm.
I guess this is at least a justification for why Freeman is really struggling to get over this hill of not understanding what's going
Mm.
wrong with Adrian, because this is a fairly decent argument for why he needs to be able to train Adrian to work under pressure.
Mm. Yeah, and I think Adrian can work under pressure because he kind of does do it at the end of this chapter. It's just not the
Yeah,
type of work where he's kind of getting in and doing combat or dangerous situation practicing.
the right kind of pressure. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Um, so the gang prepares to raid a Mussa house where wits are hiding out, and they kick into action. And Adrian doesn't do much.
Because he's so useless and cowardly and pathetic.
Hopeless, terrible loser.
I, I love to hate Seth in this opening section where they're doing the plan, because Seth has really found his confidence, he's found his stride, and I fucking
Mm.
hate that. It's
Hmm.
so fun. Like, um, Seth is just walking around here. He's saying all the big words. Cameron was leaning into his shoulder as he did it, which I fucking hate extra. Like, it's just
Hmm.
I'm really enjoying how Seth is shaping up as a villain, because much like Bristow, he's going to be that villain where bad things happen to him, and I'm not going to feel bad about it, and I like that. It's easier with these villains I don't care about.
Yeah, I can't wait for Seth to get re-forsworn.
um,
um,
but also, what I think is great about it is he reminded me of Alexander with the way he was talking and carrying everyone through this conversation. Like it reminded me of how Alexander would sweep up the Kenneteers and some others in his bullshit. And I
mm,
think kind of what it sort of made me realize is like we've got Y, and he's taken over the Bellingers, and there's been a lot of discussion in the story and out of the story about like why kind of taking the good parts of what Alexander had been doing and trying to leave the shit parts of Alexander behind. And I think Seth is maybe doing the opposite, which is very fun. Is like Seth is taking all the stupid coup counting, competitive bullshit that Alexander had and the selfish side of Alexander. And he's going in on that, whereas as like Y tries to struggle his way through the other side. And that's very fun. Like I'd love to see how those two ends of the spectrum end up comparing. We're kind of having a bad version of Alexander across from a good one.
mm, yeah, yeah. You're right. That's a very fun comparison. He's just slimy, isn't he?
It just yeah, I'll love to hate him. He's so easy to like. It's one of those things where you're just like, man, this guy's a piece of shit, and I don't have to feel bad for thinking that.
Mm, yeah. Um, I love that we are seeing this Bedlamite scream again here. We keep seeing it.
That's two beats.
Yep. So third beat. Let's see it used on the Kenneteers. Can't wait. I'm excited to see how it goes. I feel like uh I don't think we've got any indication that the wolf is like abyssal in nature, but we know that Avery's pretty good at dealing with her demons from dealing with the wolf so much. So I'd be interested to see her kind of do well against it potentially. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean the other thing as well is it's meant to like make you go insane.
Mm.
So, I don't know, stick
Yes.
Taddy on the front lines. What's the difference? Like,
Yeah.
should be right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think the great improvement that we do see with the Bedlamite scream in this chapter is that there's now special earplugs for his allies, so he doesn't bring them down with him. Which is just like,
They've learned
why did you
since
not
last time.
yeah, have it like somebody learned something last time. While that was a lesson that had to be learned, but progress.
Mm. Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this Bedlamite screaming against the Kenneteers, which I'm sure is coming.
Um, yeah, we should also talk about the choice of target here for the Negateers first raid, because this is, I've assumed, the house where Fernanda and Raquel were when Avery met up with them.
Mm.
Actually, I think that is stated. I think they say Avery broke into the house. And I guess that's fascinating because on the one, like, there's all the reasons Seth gives for why these are the thing. Like, this is a Mossa house. These are, women who are members of like the bad families. They have slaves. Like, all of that is true, but also these are like the women from these families who couldn't get out, who are stuck here, who are like are not really on the top of this bullshit system. Like, some of them are pieces of shit. We saw that in the chapter where Avery visited, but like taking this house out isn't doing anything to achieve like a win against the patriarchy or the bad system, right? Like, this is just hitting people while they're down.
Mm.
Like, I don't know. So all that reasoning was just read as such bullshit to me. I was like, look, this is great as practice for the Negateers because these are chump people that they can walk all over, but also that is why you need to reevaluate what you're doing because you're picking on the chump people who aren't the problem.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, like, again, this is another example of something where I'm like, this is where the morality of the Negateers slash Charles kind of falls over, right? Like,
Yeah,
this isn't defending or defending against forswearing. This is just kind of attacking random folks
yeah,
for
yeah,
doing
very much.
things no worse than like what Freeman did or what any of a lot of the people here have done, right? I don't
They're quite literally attacking the women and children,
know. Yeah, yeah,
essentially, and to a large extent, it's the children attacking the children. So there, you get bonus points for that, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not,
That I think cancels
yeah,
out.
it all
If you
equals
have
out.
child soldiers fighting child soldiers, I think it all cancels out morally.
Yeah. So yeah, in other words, I take it all back. This wasn't just a string of shitty justifications from Seth. It's actually moral.
Mm. But yeah, anyway, so Adrian is kind of trying to find his place and struggling, and eventually realizes he can start messing with the transports and kind of finds a niche for himself.
Yeah. But so can we talk about the part where he astrally projects at first to be the phone call like rerouter, which I love that idea of just like catching phone calls and rerouting them. Very cool.
Mm,
But Freeman specifically notes that like Adrian has grown a bit since the last time. Like, he's got more form when he astrally projects, including uh, a blur of discoloration that suggested a favorite pair of jeans was becoming part of his self identity.
mm.
Are these his shitting jeans? Like, because he shut his jeans. Like, it can't be like.
His favorite pair of jeans that he pissed and shit in are becoming a part of his core self.
But because
Oh.
because they got like, because Freeman said he was going to replace them or something.
Yeah,
But like,
if this replacement has become his favorite pair of jeans, that would be
but
pretty
that's
quick.
too
So you're
soon
right.
for
That
that to
doesn't
have
make sense.
happened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think you're right. I think that's what happens. He's actually really into it.
Okay. I was like,
Um,
this is so funny that he's got a pair of jeans as like the first piece of clothing in himself, and I was like, didn't he just shit his jeans?
that's very ridiculous. Anyway, so yeah, good work, Adrian. He has some good ideas, and Freeman kind of realizes what his place might be to kind of equip and support stuff.
Yeah, which, like, it makes sense, right? Like, this is a good sort of because like, you've already got Cameron as the kind of guy in the chair. So it does sort of make sense to, I guess, also have the tech guy who the Q, right?
Mm.
Um, And I guess it's fun to kind of compare Adrian to Avery in that regard because like the I guess the Avery comparison for me was coming from early story Avery, that one who like didn't speak up and kind of just uh, went where other people were sending her, I guess. And Adrian reminds me of that, like in that way, he's not a leader. Like he wants to be a member of the team, I suppose. Like Avery, he seems to thrive when there was the team synergy. I'm thinking of like the second he missed that phone call and he's like he wasn't sure what to do. The first thing he did was went to Cameron to get orders. Like eh, that made me think of Avery in the sense of like, oh, he just wants to be a part of the team, and so like he doesn't need to be the leader or whatever. Whereas like Freeman's going to go off and do his own dumb shit, and then ask for forgiveness or ask for help. Um,
Mm,
and I guess this is where I'm at with Adrian sort of at the moment, is I see Adrian as somebody who wants to be on the team or yeah is going to be part of the team, and so he will just sort of do he will follow orders, I guess. Like he'll do whatever
mm,
he's told, and that feels like there's some talk earlier in the chapter about why Marissa chose each of these children, and
mm,
like this could be the Adrian part of that. Like I can see Adrian is someone who goes along with all of Freeman's bullshit, goes along with whatever here. Like he comes up with his idea, but it's in service to the plan. So like Adrian scares me as somebody who like I don't necessarily think will natively want to question anything. He'll just be like, "This is the mission. This is what we're doing." Like I guess.
mm,
Which is why, yeah, Adrian has me worried as far as like negatives to fight go, because he's not going to be one who can be swayed so easily. I don't think.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think so too. I think that's why he's a good pick from Marcy's perspective, I guess.
Yeah, like because he does raise the questions to Freeman early on in the chapter where he's like, Couldn't this kill someone? Couldn't this be killing your old allies?" And Freeman's just sort of like, "Well, yep," and then Adrian seemingly like, "Well, yep." Um, so it doesn't bode well.
Mm, yeah. Um, so yeah, the kids joyride off, arson in their wake, excitedly planning to do more. Yay!
Yeah, it's this it's this really funny moment where like it's like, yay, they found their rhythm and they're happy, but also it's from pillaging. That's not great.
Hmm.
So I like that they're doing well and they found something they enjoy doing and they're getting practical experience. I just wish it wasn't in this field.
Yeah, it's worrying. We get a note that Yu and Nomi are not keen on this, so hopefully they will switch sides. But yeah, it's a bit rough that they attack some innocent, effectively innocent folks and then burn down their house.
Yeah.
Attack some refugees, burn their house, and then be excited to do more, which is how I sum up
Classic
the end of
friend
this.
stuff.
Yeah. So
Um
yeah, great.
Also, sorry. We see some of Helen's practice here too. Because I've heard the other big takeaway from this is like, holy fuck, these kids are terrifying. Like,
Yep.
we see Joshua go in and Bedlamite scream, but we already knew that they were packing that kind of horrible shit.
Mm,
Seeing fucking Harry go up there and she's got like her weird chopstick things that let her be a kind of horror, and like it's just the fuck is Helen's family? It's terrifying. I want more of it.
yeah, I'm sure we will see more of it when it's used against the Kenneteers. Coming soon.
Yeah, I can't wait. Like this is as Snowdrop's tiny fan says in the chat, like this is a great way of continuing to establish how fucking terrifying the Negatives are as they get ready to fight the Kenneteers.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so that's the end of 20.b.
Yep, these kids, they're getting nice and radicalized. It's everything Jasmine thought Miss was going to be, but
Mm,
isn't.
yeah. Um, so yeah, 20.c, C for Connor. Let's get into it. It's the fun parenting chapter.
Yeah. The nice pick me up after that last one.
Yeah. So yeah, it starts with Connor and Kelsey sharing a nice moment in the evening of the fireworks show, and yeah, we're kind of seeing over the start of this chapter the backstory behind what happened when Avery returned home that evening. I guess.
Yeah, I think what's really fun about this first chunk of this chapter is it's just giving us even more of the fun Christmas party. Like, 'cause there's like so many just interactions. I'm thinking of like Ram Jam talking to Connor and Kelsey, There's obviously the whole thing where the showers at the Kelly household are discussed. That's hilarious. Snowdrop harassing Luna into having fun. Sylvia and Kelsey and this is what the other like Christmas party chapters are. It's just an absolute buffet feast of fun character interactions, and I love that Wildbow gave us the ability to just get a handful more.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. It's very, very fun. This is
I
a
mean, it's
great
the
chapter.
best shit. Yeah,
I really love this chapter. I mean, like, I'm just gonna say it. I guess this has been one of my favorite chapters. We say this every so often. We get a chapter that I
yeah,
think is
yeah,
just a new favorite, and this really is one of them. It's just great.
yeah. This is an S tier chapter for sure.
For sure. So yeah, there's this really great quote that I misread, and I'm just going to share it all with you. There's this bit where Connor's like being nice and says, "I might be biased, but because I'm in love with you to a silly degree, but I think you look fine." Kelsey reaches up to give him a light pat on the cheek and says, "Biased." And I thought Kelsey first said based, which was just so funny. Her reaching up and going, based. Like, oh, that's a based thought. I just thought it was hilarious, so I'm just going to share that with you all.
She's been hanging out with Declan too much. She's a
Yeah,
gamer now.
Declan's hardcore gamer chat is supreme.
Oh god, that is probably the one sort of parental torture I don't think we've seen the Kellys engage in that much, which is like
Misusing slang. Yeah,
appropriating slang.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That would be hilarious. I
because
think
that's my
Declan would love
favorite
it.
kind.
Yeah.
Especially now that I'm like a 30-year-old and I've got a beard. Like it was only a few years ago I realized that I had the power to do this to annoy teenagers. I fucking love it.
It is a powerful gift, isn't it?
Yeah. You know what it was? It was after I was at work one time and was helping this intern set up a headset, like because we use VR headsets a lot at my work, and they're Oculus headsets, so they're run by Facebook. So I was like, "Oh, you need a Facebook account to log in," and she was like, "Oh, my generation doesn't have Facebook." And 28-year-old me is looking at this like 21-year-old girl, like, What the fuck do you mean your generation? Like, I'm not that old.
Yeah,
That was the moment it all turned around.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so Connor gets his fill of being a dad to his newly dating daughter. Was that some great BDE, big dad energy?
Ruben, you can't use that because I've been using BDE to describe Avery for about 4 arcs in my live read.
Well, Avery also kind of has big dad energy, to be
Well,
honest.
it stands for Big Dits Energy
Oh, that's
in
good.
the
Yeah,
live
yeah, yeah.
read. So yeah, I mean Connor definitely has Big Dits energy too, which is part of the fun of this chapter. Like this is another one of those tier parent ones where you're like, fuck, I can see the Avery and Connor. Like this guy's definitely the one who homeschooled and raised her and was like her parent because there's so much Avery and Connor. It's hilarious.
Mm, mm.
Like he's the only other one who who just assumed assumed Avery was talking about coordinating on the shower schedule. Like everyone else did the obvious thing and thought the lewd thing, whereas Connor and Avery, the precious beans that they are, were just like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
Mm, yeah. Um, God, you just can't help but love Connor. Like,
Yeah.
he's just so fun. And this is just such a great chapter as a result. Like, there's a bit of yeah, his kind of cute dad reactions to, oh, my daughter is dating, and he still kind of doesn't quite know how to handle it. I just love it. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Especially like Connor used to cop so much flack from the
Mm,
fandom, I think, because he took that time to catch up with coming out 1.0. It's just so great to sort of get that chance to celebrate the fact that he did catch up and he is doing better.
mm, yeah. Yeah. Love him. Um, so yeah, on the walk home, Connor reflects on his and Kelsey's backstory, how they kind of ended up where they were as a couple. And yeah, what an interesting piece of family history that we really didn't have insight into at all, I don't think.
Yeah,
Like they very nearly broke up. Things really blew up, and then it kind of led to them learning, oh wait, we need to be able to kind of negotiate our needs as a couple and getting to kind of a really healthy place as a result.
yeah. It sounds like they had just this brief period where just like the shit kept hitting the fan, like it was just
Yeah.
problem after problem. Um, And yeah, I love that tactic they seemingly developed of like being able to enter a sort of business mode of like just lay all the cards out there, like really talk about it, just understand what the other person's saying. Because like I think you need that. Otherwise, passive aggressive bullshit builds up. So yeah, I love that sort of vibe.
Yeah, yeah,
And you
yeah,
can see why their love is so fucking strong now because they fucking like earned that marriage.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just thought just a great moment, like just a great story to hear, and really
Yeah.
interesting to hear Connor's reflections on it.
Yeah, and I love that we are getting this here and now too, because this is, am I wrong? Aside from that short Jasmine interlude, this is the first Kenneteer parent interlude, right?
Mm, mm,
Um, and I think it makes a lot of sense that there's been some stuff where Avery over the last handful of arcs has directly called out how she's growing to see her parents more as people rather than just her parents.
mm,
And to jump ahead in the notes a little bit, this is an arc that is dealing a lot with the idea of like teachers and parents letting their students go on without them, or like what graduation, quote unquote, looks like.
mm, mm,
So I think it's really fun that we finally get the full story on what happened with Avery's family from Connor's perspective at this point in the story, because this is like uh, the chapter where he's like letting go of Avery as just his child. I think like that he finally stopped seeing her as just his daughter in this chapter. And
mm.
so yeah, like of course we also stopped seeing him as just her dad in this chapter.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very good point. I mean, like the reflections on how much has Avery's family grown? Have they grown enough to handle this new situation they're going to be put in? Makes this a
Yeah.
great chapter to explore that, right? I mean, that's what happens next. Connor gets home, and we get time with each of his children. Uh, Declan and Kerry specifically. These sections are kind of about seeing, okay, have these kids grown from where they're at the start of the story. Um,
Yeah.
and just Connor is a great dad. That's really what this
Yeah.
part of the chapter is. He's just very good with all of them. And yeah, I mean, they've got 5 kids now, so you get practiced with them, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's definitely something to be said for how, obviously Connor and Kelsey have not always hit it out of the park. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, especially with Avery.
Mm,
Um, but like, I think, yeah, like this is just a testament to how much he's fucking learned his lesson. Like, he's the one who's like, "Hey, Kelsey, remember you promised Kerry you'd read her a bedtime story." Like, and then when Kelsey proves unable to do that, he also like steps up there. Like you're right, Connor's a brilliant dad, but I think that's because he's again fucking learnt how to do that.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
like something that really jumped out to me is how much he's very tuned into what each kid needs from him. Like
Mm,
with Sheridan, he's very specific not to push her to give up info
mm,
because he knows that she'll just dig her heels in and be an asshole about it.
yeah.
Whereas, like with Declan, he's very direct. He's like, "Hey, Declan, while you're doing this video game, let's turn it into math."
Yeah.
Like he's about as subtle as a fucking ton of rocks on that one. And then yeah, like as Declan's like going, he's like, "No, no, no, you will talk to me about not a video game for 10 seconds." Like it's, and then with Carrie, he just reads her a book because Carrie's just fucking starved for attention.
Yeah.
Um, like yeah, I guess compared to Freeman, like the obvious comparison from the other chapter we're covering this week, Connor is very good at attuning what he provides based on what the child needs. And that's like kind of what makes him a good dad.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. He's definitely kind of learned, and he does great. I mean, like, I, I took a note here. I took a note down when I was reading this chapter for the first time, just being like, "Oh, this is such a nice chapter. I'm so horrified what's going to come later." Thank God it didn't become horrifying. Like the obvious thing hanging over this is Sheridan finding out about magic, but I really just felt like we were going to get to that point and then something horrifying was going to happen. Thank God that it didn't.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time that the first 3 quarters of a chapter has just been absolutely delightful, just to get us to let our guards down to
Yeah,
be absolutely smashed at the end. So that's a fair
yeah, yeah,
concern, I think.
yeah. But yeah, so we get to this point. The family discusses the video.
so excited for this, and it's just a
Yeah.
delight. Like again, something we're gonna kind of have to skim over. It's just how many hilarious interactions there are between the family members in this. Like, it's just going to turn into us listing like 50 moments if we call all of them out. But there's so
Yeah.
many good ones.
Yep, and I'll start by calling one out the moment when Rowan thinks that Avery has got the ability to teleport from being gay, which is the best moment ever. It's so good. And Sheridan immediately jumps on it in that way that siblings do.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
delightful.
Especially because I mean he's not wrong, right? Like she she does have magical teleporting powers. Um, yeah, that moment is just so funny because yeah, it's so sus and he says he's like, because she's gay. I was like, the fuck does that have to do with time travel or teleporting?
It's hilarious. I do like that it's pretty clear that the universe is trying to maintain Rowan's innocence much more actively. Sheridan seems to have crossed that line already, whereas Rowan clearly hasn't, and that's kind of a fun
Yeah.
vibe too.
Yeah, like they bring up that Raquel has private jets, and Rowan's like, "Oh, okay." And then Sheridan's like, "Okay, so what? You private jetted from Kennet, where there's no airport, like to
Yeah,
Thunder Bay, where I guess you just fucking
parachuted
paradropped in
out. Yeah,
into our way." This makes sense to me. Was fucking gold. Uh, yeah, I think the other one that charms me is the bit where, like, as Sheridan and Rowan are sort of coping, I think it's Sheridan floats the idea that maybe they were adopted or something, and Kelsey's just like, "Hey, fuck off! I didn't carry you for all those weeks for you to tell me that you think you're adopted." Like, yeah, so
yeah,
yeah, just so much fun.
yeah. So yeah, it's happening.
Yeah,
They're kind of they obviously every tries a few different tacks to get Sheridan to smooth it over in her brain, and it just does not work.
yeah, which I really like that because I think the obvious comparison here to be made is like to look at how the Kennet Found school is recruiting versus the Kennet Below school because I'm just
Mm.
fully committing to my thing of like Kennet Below being Charles, Kennet Found being Miss, and Kennet Above being like the establishment like Musser and Alexander.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, like, if you got the Kennet Found school, which is essentially the Kenneteers, the way they grow and recruit is by essentially when people are exposed to bad magic or like become aware. The Kenneteers are very much like, "Are you sure you want to be in this world?" And when the person proves that they are, they kind of do their best to ease them into it. And like, there's already talk of what these guys are going to do to help Avery, and that's so fun. Whereas like fucking Charles's school, the Kennet Below school, is just sort of going, here's some vulnerable kids. Now that we've converted them, vulnerable kids, go out and recruit more vulnerable kids. Like, and then they will be immediately forced into a specific specialty with some tutoring for the other practices in the background. Like it's such a stark difference in the way these schools are both seemingly growing over this week.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I mean, like, how do you think this is going to go? I guess that's like, the rest of the chapter is them talking about, okay, are we actually awakening the family? Is this actually happening? And we end on yes. um, Avery is trying to find the right time for scheduling, and it kind of comes up that there's a truce, and Charles is going to, fuck them up pretty soon. And so the family is kind of in on what's going on now all the way.
Yeah.
Um, Seems like it's happening.
Yeah. Well, I guess the interesting comparison here is like, so you've essentially got Sheridan and Rowan. Potentially, you could count Kelsey and Connor as these, yeah, potential new Kennet Found recruits
Mm.
versus, I think Nomi and Co were told to get 5 other new recruits of their own. So my head's naturally going to like, well, how do we think that those two teams are going to compare in a week? And I mean, my answer is that I think like Charles's group is going to have more raw power, but they're going to have way less stability and ability to use it versus like Sheridan and Co are going to sort of be much more like they'll know what they know in a much better way, if that
Mm.
makes sense. We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be pretty optimistic to think that either side is going to let just their newbies go at each other, right? Like the problem is that, like, I'm not expecting Sheridan to go head to head with one of the 5 newbies or whatever. Like, presumably, it's going to be more complicated than that.
No, I think they will. Um, I don't think it's going to be like, great, let's send Sheridan to kill, Adrian or whatever, right? But I do think there's going to be moments where Sheridan and Rowan are going to play important roles, just from the
Yeah,
fact that it's pretty clear that Sheridan isn't going to be kept out of this, right? And in the same
yeah,
way that, someone like Lucy is going to find themselves in dangerous and pivotal situations just by virtue of wanting to be involved. I think that's where Sheridan will end up too.
you're right. Yeah, that's the secret sauce for me. The fact that because of the way the Kenneteers do this, they found kids who really want to be in this for the right reasons, and that's gonna, I think, be an important difference.
Mm,
Um, I I suppose um just I guess to talk about like Sheridan and Rowan as practitioner candidates because I feel like the story wants us to. Um,
mm,
Sheridan feels like an easy sell for somebody who will get benefit out of entering like the world of magic. Like she's very consistently not been thriving in Ken above sort of like classical society, whatever. Um, Obviously the fact that about 80% of her personality is sarcasm is a worry.
mm,
Um, but I feel like Sheridan getting to spend a bit of time in Kennet Below is a bit of a no-brainer win for her. Like Sheridan as a black sheep just feels right to me.
mm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll get into this for our discussion question in a little bit, I
Yes, sorry,
suppose.
I forgot that was our discussion question when I wrote up these notes. So I guess just to answer it a bit for myself, there's also obviously Rowan. I think Rowan's really interesting because I think he gets a lot of personal growth. Like he's mini
Mm,
Connor, right?
mm,
Um,
mm.
it's also why I also think Declan should be a part of this as soon as Charles is gone. Um,
Yeah.
but what jumped out to me, Rowan has this one really interesting line where he talks about he's somebody who just creates barriers for himself and inconveniences himself, which was
Mm,
interesting because I didn't have an image of him as somebody who thought about himself like that.
mm.
Um,
Who was that self-reflective?
yeah, or just I guess saw his life as that difficult. Like I kind of had him pegged as a bit of a guy who just went with the flow and wasn't really worried about stuff like that. But it seems like he has a bit more of an insecurity than I realized about not being somebody who thrives.
Mm,
Um, and so I wonder if this sort of thing will turn out to be kind of. Uh, I mean, I guess to go back to what Freeman talked about with Adrian, Freeman was upset that Adrian didn't have like a goal or a mission or anything, and like this kind of feels like what that could be for Rowan. Like Rowan is somebody who's just kind of coasted a bit through life because nothing's ever really clicked with him, and I could see magic finally maybe being that thing.
mm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's something so big that you can't help but kind of restructure your life and reflect on your life around it, right? So I
Yeah.
think it will be a good opportunity for Rowan to really kind of shuffle how he is living his life.
I'm excited to see how these two go as potential practitioners, or at least aware. Like I think Sheridan would thrive with goblins and Kennet below. I don't think she'll
Mm,
be like Liberty, like a goblin practitioner or anything, but like she seems like somebody who would do well politically down there, I guess.
mm, mm. Yeah.
Um, Also, sorry, we haven't talked about the fact that the way Avery shows the magic is real is by opening up a door to a path, which I guess makes
It's,
sense, simple thing
I
to do.
mean, I guess.
But the path she picks is fucking bananas, right? Like,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
like it's bordering on the Cascus Wild. So it's just like that's a couple of thousands of primevals, like
Mm-hmm.
just and because like Avery, she shows it to them and she's like, yes, so these are primevals. That's a category that's like from before time, blah blah blah, and then these are lost. Like, it, it was like really oddly specific about like how they should all be categorized, which is then
Yeah,
so funny because then Sheridan keeps kind of bringing them up as categories, and
yeah,
Avery
of
keeps being
course
like,
she
"Oh well,
does.
well, they don't come up very often." And
Yeah, they're
Sheridan's
not
like,
actually
"This is
that
all you showed me."
important. Yeah, I know. It's such a weird, like, it's such a ridiculous thing for Avery to do. Show them this and then be like, these huge monsters that are older than time or whatever, don't worry about them. They're not going to be
Yeah,
important. But, like,
yeah.
you
Please
showed
stop
them
bringing
to
them up as an example. They're not really relevant. It's the only thing you've showed me. Like,
them.
it's like she picked the two most esoteric fields of practice and was
Yeah.
like, Here you
Ridiculous.
go.
Yeah,
It's
these
just
aren't
such
that
a
important unless you're somebody called Marie Durachet. Don't worry about her. Don't worry about this. It's
it's such a
terrible.
hilariously wild way to bring someone into this world. Like I fucking love it for just it's so Avery to just kind of shoot shoot a fucking like missile out of a handgun. Like
Mm,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. um, but yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. This conversation is hilarious for something so serious, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess the conversation eventually gets to: are the Kellys going to become this practitioner dynasty kicking Charles's butt? And it seems like Connor is kind of like, yeah, I think we
Yeah.
have to.
And I just I get it, you know. I think I'm on board. Like
Mm,
I agree. Yeah.
mm,
I do think I love how Avery gives them the little speech where she's like, "Look, if we're doing this, it has to be all in. Like, you need to listen to me. You need to follow my instructions. Listen not just to what I'm saying, but the subtext of what I'm not saying." Which, like anybody who's played Hannibal knows, that's fucking easier said than done. And then, in response to this whole speech, Sheridan's basically like, "Oh, so you need us to not be the Kelly family anymore?" And
mm,
it's a funny joke that she gets called out. Kelsey's like, "Hey, no kidding," but like, I mean, she's right, right? Like, this is the family that let Avery slip through the cracks. Like, this is a family that has a history of not really fulfilling that mandate of all looking out for each other, listening, and being on the same page. And that's why I think this is so fun. Is like it's so funny if you like go back and read Arc 2, the idea that the Kelly family are the ones who have to like all be on the same page and be behind Avery is so fucking funny and far from where the start of the story is. Like, and
mm,
meanwhile, Lucy is struggling to connect with Jasmine and Booker's completely in the dark. That's so fucking funny that this is where we've ended up.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's a fun, I don't know, a fun development for the Kelly family, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think they'll be better for it. Like, it just feels like it's going to be one of those things where it's like it will be an improvement for them.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Um, so yeah, I mean, do you think? How do you think this is going to go? Awakening the Kellys.
I mean, I think they'll awaken them, and then they'll all die on January 2nd, right? That's
So they'll survive past January 1st.
oh yeah, just that's how long it'll take to break down all the barriers they put up.
I see. I
Um,
see. So at
yeah,
least survive one day. That's good. That's pretty good.
yeah. No, look, it's obviously going to be a hard time. I mean, this is the whole thing with everything in this story. Like, the same is true of Avery, right? Like, Avery didn't have a great opening to this world, but look at what it's done for her as a person. Like, Avery is so much more confident and capable now than she was at the start of the story, and
Mm,
I feel like that's going to be true of the Kelly family as a unit. I feel like it's going to be pretty rough when they're in the war, but
mm,
once they get out of the war, they'll be better for it, because they
mm.
have each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I do think it's also going to be really fun to explore how they compare to a classical practitioner dynasty, like as you brought up. Like we've seen Samaniego call Avery out that in a few generations she might not be any different to the Mosses, and I think it's going to be fun to explore if that comment has sat with her, what she would do to not be that.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I guess we'll
Yeah.
have to
Also,
see.
so if this is a Kennett found practitioner dynasty, they're not all going to be finders, right?
No, definitely not.
This
It
is
doesn't
never going
feel
to
like
be.
this is Rowan and Sheridan's jam to be finders, does it?
Yeah. Sheridan again, I just feel like something about Kennett below and some goblin adjacent stuff. I just feel like Sheridan's going to end up with something goblin adjacent as not necessarily a specialty, but something she's spending her time with. Um and then like I love Kelsey jumps out to me as like remember in Wise interlude where we met, I forget her name, but the like lady who was in charge of the other half of the Bellinger family,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it was like the business side who organized like the marriages or whatever, and
Mm,
like Kelsey's kind of that. Like you've got like the
yeah,
Averys running
true.
around doing the finding, and Kelsey is the head of the family in terms of just like making sure the numbers add up and like yeah the business side. Um, so I'm interested to see how they compare on fronts like that too. Like what does the Kelly family dynasty sort of try to shape itself as?
Mm, yeah, yeah. I don't know.
I,
I don't,
I guess that ties into like what it feels like this arc or this part of the story is talking about in general is like I think we touched on it, but like this idea of what kids or students like growing up looks like, which obviously, people have been talking about Pale being a coming of age story, since the primevals walked the earth. Um, but this arc really feels like it's now in. We're not just seeing like a bunch of different teachers and teaching styles. I think all of them are specifically also focusing on like what does it look like to let them slip, right? Like let them out onto the into the world on their own. Like how is Freeman preparing Adrian to work without him? Yiyun, like how was like Nomi being prepared to work without Yiyun? And like this is the chapter where we see Connor, I think, really let go of Avery as his daughter and agree to like back her up in this less parental capacity. Um,
Mm,
and I just think it's really fun that, yeah, like I don't think this arc is just necessarily discussing teaching styles. It's discussing like preparing children for the world styles. And we're seeing like a lot of different examples, not just in the interludes. And I can't wait to sort of see where that heads throughout the arc.
mm, yeah, yeah, definitely. Where do you think that can go? What are the next kind of parent teacher dynamics that we're gonna? Sorry, not parent teacher, student teacher, or student,
Yeah.
child parent
This is a problem
dynamics.
because it's kind of neither parent or teacher, or it's like both. It's just like
Yeah,
anybody who I
yeah,
guess had responsibility for a kid, like
yes,
letting them
yes,
out into the world.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I know, like I feel like these wild boar stories don't tend to answer these questions or anything so much as, yeah, like I guess just keep showing us examples, and then I guess we'll see what happens to them when they all end up on opposite sides of a battlefield.
Mm, yeah, yeah. I guess we'll have to see. But that's where our chapter ends. Yeah, we'll continue to see the rise of the Kelly dynasty, I suppose, in comparison to the Saint Victor's dynasty. And these two dynasties are going to come to terms, come to blows. Um,
I mean, I'd love it if they came to terms. That would be
yeah, maybe they'll come to
that would
terms.
be
Parts
great.
of them might come to terms. Anyway, yeah, that's the end of our episode for today. But before we go, just a few quick reminders. Reminder number one is that we have our Pale Predictor form. If you want to predict what you think is going to happen with the Kelly dynasty or the Negateer dynasty and whether they'll come to terms or come to blows, the place to do that is in our Pale Predictor form, which you can find linked in the show notes down below.
Yeah. Also, I feel like I say this a lot that we should add more categories to it or whatever. If you have an idea for a category, post it in our Discord channel or something. At the very least, that will remind me to set up more categories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, don't forget we're running a discussion question with answers due for the next episode.
Yes, very prescient discussion question from last week. Which member of Avery's family would be the best practitioner? Definitely looks like it's going to become relevant. I think, Elliot, you also are interested in what type of practice will Avery's family do?
Yeah.
What will Sheridan be? What will Rowan be? Leave your answers to that in our discussion thread, which you can find linked again in the show notes.
Yeah, if you sort of extend your answer out to be just discussing potential specializations for any Kellys, we'll
Mm,
read that out too because I reckon that's a really fun extension on the question.
yeah, definitely. Um, Yeah. Thanks for joining us, folks. If you want to check out more from us, you can check out our Twitter for daily memes every single day at Pale Reflectcast. Hot, fresh memes about Pale every day.
That's been sort of true this week. I'm proud of us.
Mm.
Don't forget to stop by our Patreon, patreon.com/doof media. If you can afford to donate anything, it's literally the only reason this podcast is happening, although I'm not making a great case for that right now. But yeah, also, we've got a bunch of stuff. We started behind the scenes doing some All Packed Up 2 prep again, and all the fun prizes and stuff we're preparing for that are coming from that money too.
Mm. Yeah. Um, so yeah, support us on Patreon, patreon.com/doofmedia. And while you're on Patreon, make sure you go to Wildbow's Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. You can write more fun themed chapters like these Father's Day ones.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I guess with that, we'll see everyone next week for more Letting Slip.
Farewell.